Episode 5 of the Amazing Digital Circus has recently come out, and it feels like this episode has opened up a whole bunch of new questions. Since its release, I've seen a bunch of new theories pop up about the characters' backstories, about what's going on with the circus in general, and about the topic of this video, this mysterious mannequin who pops up. We see it at the beginning and at the end of the episode, and on both occasions it's just kind of observing the characters from a distance, trying to stay hidden and out of the way. Pomni does notice it the first time, but she just kind of ignores it for some reason. However, this isn't the first episode where we've seen this mannequin. We've actually seen it in episodes 3 and 4, but it's just more hidden out of the way. In these episodes, it's again just observing the characters from a distance, either trying to stay hidden from them or from Kane, or probably both. I'm going to be going through a few different theories about who or what this mannequin could be, and I'm going to be rating each theory on how likely I think they are to be true, with 10 stars meaning it's definitely true and 0 stars meaning it's impossible. Okay, so the first theory about this mannequin that I'm going to get into is that it's actually a human player, like Pomni and the other circus members. The basis for this theory comes from how on the doors of each character's bedroom there's a picture of their avatar, but for the empty rooms there's just an image of a blank mannequin until a new player loads in and that's where their picture goes. So on the doors, these mannequin images are pretty much just placeholders for the new player's images to load over the top of. So then what if the actual mannequin models that Kane keeps around act as bases for the characters? So, if a new player enters a circus or a new NPC is created by Kane, their skin will load over the top of the mannequin base and it will become modified into their skin. If this is the case, then it's possible that this mannequin is a player whose skin failed to load properly for some reason. This could be due to a glitch occurring when they entered the game, like the glitches we've seen Kane go through all the time. If Kane were to see them, he'd probably just mistake them for another rogue NPC that somehow made their way into the circus, and then he'd zap them out of existence like he did to Gummigoo. This is probably why they're hiding from everyone out of fear of being, snapped. As for when this player spawned in, my guess would be sometime during episode 2, because they would have had a chance to see what happened to Gummigoo, and so would be wary of showing themselves. It also makes sense since their first confirmed appearance was in episode 3. This isn't the theory that I personally believe, but I wouldn't be too surprised if it were true, since it does line up with what we've already seen, and it wouldn't create any big plot holes or anything. So I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10 stars. So the next theory I'm going to go through is the one that I believe because I think it's the most straightforward and it just makes the most sense. It's the theory that the mannequin is an NPC/AI that's escaped to the circus from one of the previous adventures and then it's become self-aware. So in pretty much every adventure, Kane makes a bunch of these mannequin NPCs to help fill space and add to his world building, like the crowds in the Candy Kingdom. And with so many of these mannequin guys around, it wouldn't be surprising if one of them accidentally or on purpose stepped through one of Kane's portals without him noticing and discovered the circus, ending up in them becoming self-aware. The idea of an NPC being in the circus is also heavily foreshadowed in episode 2, where Kane says,
"But if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?"
And then in episode 5, it gets foreshadowed again when Kane says this to Zubul.
"You hearing this, Bubble? The Toy Box character wants us to leave the other intelligent AIs to run for a prolonged period of time."
The fact that the idea of an NPC breaking into the circus or running on its own has been brought up so many times now just makes me think that it does have to happen at some point, and this could be it. If this mannequin is an NPC, I wouldn't be too surprised if they had some sort of resentment or anger towards Kane due to how he just kind of disregards the NPCs after each adventure and then zaps them if they get into the circus. So the mannequin could maybe be looking for some sort of revenge. There's also a sort of mini theory within this theory, and it's that the mannequin we're talking about could be the same one that we see in episode 1 when Pomni's opening all the random doors trying to find an exit. The mannequin NPC she meets here actually has a name, and it's Mr. Football, and they're shown to be quite aggressive towards Pomni when she finds them. Mr. Football launches this giant angry tragedy mask at Pomni, and I find it quite interesting that they seem to express emotion, because all the other mannequins we've seen, they just kind of say their lines. So if Mr. Football is the mannequin for episode 5, this aggression at being found would make a lot of sense, because they'd be trying to hide from everyone to avoid being zapped by Kane. But regardless of whether the mannequin is Mr. Football, the idea that they are some kind of sentient NPC just seems very likely to me, because of all the foreshadowing that I talked about earlier. I think this theory is definitely the most likely out of the ones I'm talking about, so I'll give it an 8.5 stars out of 10. Okay, so the next theory is pretty out there, but it's also pretty fun, and I've seen some people talk about it, so I thought that it was at least worth mentioning. It's that the mannequin is actually Gummy Goo in a new form. So at the end of episode 2, Kane zaps away Gummy Goo, and we don't see him again until episode 3. When he sees Pomni again, he doesn't seem to recognise her or have any sort of self-awareness, so he just plays that simple role of the customer, and then he gets pretty freaked out by Pomni's creepy behaviour towards him. However, there is this certain scene in the episode that I want to focus on. When Gangle comes to reprimand Pomni for wasting time chatting with customers and Pomni defends herself, she ends up calling Gummy Goo by his name, and when she does, his expression immediately changes to this confused expression, and he reaches out his hand towards Pomni before taking it back. I think it's possible that hearing his name could have flipped some sort of switch in his mind, maybe causing his previous memories to come flooding back. I could be reading into the scene a bit too much, and I probably am, because his changed expression could just be from his confusion at this complete stranger knowing his name. But if he did remember in this moment, it wouldn't be surprising then that he doesn't say anything about it outright to Pomni, because he'd probably be scared of getting his memory wiped by Kane again. There's also something to be said for that little pause and smile he does when Pomni says goodbye to him. It's almost like he's giving her the farewell he never got to give her in episode 2, but this is kind of just a little observation by me, it's not too important to the theory. So once the Spudsy's adventure ends, the now self-aware Gummy Goo could have found a way into the circus, maybe through one of Kane's portals, and he might look like a mannequin in the circus instead of his alligator self, because of some sort of glitch maybe, or he could have done it on purpose and disguised himself somehow so he would be less assuming. As for why he'd want to go back to the circus after what happened last time, he could be looking for some way to take down Kane, or he could just be looking out for Pomni. Now, as fun as this theory is, it does have quite a few plot holes, such as the mannequin first appearing in episode 3, which would be before Gummy Goo supposedly got his memories back according to this theory. And then there's also the whole thing with him changing his appearance, which is just quite a stretch. And due to this, I'll give this theory 3 out of 10 stars, so probably not true, but still fun. So the final theory I'm going to talk about is one that I haven't really seen many people talk about, and it also ties into this bigger theory. And it's the theory that the mannequin is actually a vessel for someone on the outside, possibly someone from the CNA company, to observe the events of the circus. There's quite a bit to unpack with this one, so I'll just start from the beginning. It's pretty much confirmed that every player in the circus entered by putting on a headset that they found in an abandoned office building, like the office Pomni found when she was trying to escape the circus in episode 1. When you actually start to consider what this means, it kind of opens up this whole can of worms, because we can assume that each player entered the same office building, as it seems unlikely that there would be multiple office buildings with different computers and connected headsets that all led to the circus, since it doesn't seem to be an online server, as I don't think Kane has any knowledge of the internet, and the game was likely created before the internet became widely used. So we can assume that they all put on a headset connected to the same computer in the same building. However, it seems that the bodies of the players were removed from the building, as surely if someone came across a decaying body with a headset on, they'd run away or report it to the police instead of putting the headset on themselves. This leads to the natural conclusion that someone, or a group of people, are removing the bodies from the office. These could be employees of the CNA company or perhaps an unrelated group. There's also the fact that this is an apparently abandoned building, and yet the game is constantly running, so therefore there must be a constant electricity supply, which again implies some sort of outside interference. Whoever it is that's removing the bodies and ensuring the electricity supply, they may be monitoring the circus for some reason, and they could be using the mannequin to do it. When it comes to this theory, I definitely believe the bit about someone being on the outside, and I'll probably do a longer video on this, but I'm not 100% sure on how the mannequin ties into it, as we haven't seen anything that directly links them, so I'll give the theory a solid 7 out of 10. Okay, so that's all the theories that I wanted to go through today. Let me know if there's any you think are missing, or which ones you think are true. This has actually been my first YouTube video ever, so let me know if it was any good, and if you did enjoy it, please like or subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you next video.